All right. Welcome into three pricing strategies to avoid and what else to do instead. So we're excited to bring this to you. Thanks for joining me here in the Condi virtual open house. Let me go ahead and get my slides up on screen here and we can get this rolling for you. So again, three pricing strategies to avoid and let's dive in. So I'm excited to be here and share my thoughts on pricing strategies to avoid. I've held several positions in the industry in sales and marketing management, as well as the consulting work that I've done over the years. And pricing is something I've been involved with. And I've really come to realize that it's an art form. We worry that no one's going to pay the price we ask, or that we're leaving money on the table and are not making enough profit to survive. So I have set pricing, helped others review their pricing, and I've landed on a pricing strategy that seems to trump all the others. At the same time, being in this industry for almost 22 years now, I've seen some bad advice, right? Pricing strategies to avoid. And I was hopeful that this bad advice might just go away because it is bad advice and it does tend to lead people down the wrong path. But unfortunately, it seems to be repeated more and more. Now, apparently, it's actually been repeated so many times now that enough people are believing that it's true. So they start repeating this as the way you should do it. Now, fortunately, all of the sharing of bad advice, from what I can tell, seems to be well-meaning. The problem is it tends to really oversimplify things. As I said before, pricing is an art form, and that art form isn't just multiplying a couple of numbers or two, maybe copying from a neighbor, or just kind of finding that lowest common denominator. So I actually had a poll in the app. Hopefully you guys all saw that. And it asked how important your pricing strategy is to your business. And just to share, the answer that I was a 5 out of 5. So let's talk about these pricing strategies to avoid and then what to do instead. So my name is Aaron Montgomery and I'm the co-founder of Our Success Group. Some of you might also have heard me on the industry's oldest and most listened to podcast, The Two Regular Guys. Now, I don't have an ego large enough to believe that you all showed up because of me. You showed up because of your business and the success that you desire. So I'm not going to get into this big, long diatribe about who I am, what I've done, and all this other stuff. I want to know more about you. And if you want to know more about me, just reach out. I'm an open book. I'm happy to share anything that I've experienced over the course of my 22 years in this industry. But as I said, I want to know more about you. Since we're here at the Condi Open House, I know most of you are involved in sublimation. I actually often joke that I feel pretty comfortable with sublimation and actually consult with sublimation companies. But David Gross will forget more about sublimation than I will ever actually know. So Condi is a wealth of knowledge, and with David and Doug and Sprite, you're all in really great hands. So congratulations on that first and foremost. I'm really honored to be invited to share with the Condi community. So with that being said, that's enough about me, but you see these little quote marks down there. Let me share my favorite quote. The greatest danger for most of us lies in setting our aims too high. The greatest danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but in setting our aim too low and achieving our mark, by Michelangelo. So there you go. Think about that as we go through this, and let's dive in. So this is my why statement, and it's also the mission that we follow at Our Success Group. I love small business owners, as you all have the characteristics and values that I really admire and actually try to emulate. You're resourceful, you're accountable, you're industrious, you're hardworking. Everyone that is giving a business of their own a go deserves support. Business owners are always willing to do the work and be self-starters. It gets me excited just talking about it. So today I'm going to share 3 pricing strategies that don't work as a cautionary tale. It has taken me 22 years to get to this point, and honestly, probably even longer than that. My dad was a CPA for 25 years, specializing in bookkeeping and accounting for small businesses. So If one of these strategies that I bring up to avoid hits a little too close to home, please don't beat yourself up or feel as if I'm talking down to you. Some of the examples and questions I see on Facebook might even might even be from you. And if it comes directly from you, that's even better because it gives you a chance to look at this from a different angle and decide what works for you. So my wife has a saying that she uses on me as I'm attempting to be a beginner yoga person, yogi. I don't know exactly what that's called. And I can barely touch my knees, let alone my toes when it comes to my flexibility. And this is all occurring while she is bending and twisting with ease. And whenever I get to that point where I'm a little frustrated, I can't do the move or whatever, she says, wherever you are at is perfectly fine. And she shares that with me to let me know that it's okay where I'm at and that every time I practice, I'm getting a little more flexible. I actually believe in each and every one of you. And the reason why I share that I believe in you is I actually believe that I'm proving that. I've made our success group my full-time career. I don't have a side gig, a backup plan, or a safety net. So helping small businesses succeed is what I'm all about. Therefore, I really have to believe in you guys because if you don't succeed, I don't succeed. So our success group really fulfills my purpose, which is, if you remember, providing resources that empower business owners, you, to your idea of success. So with that mission in mind, my goal over the next 40 to 50 minutes is to provide those resources and to have you continue to build on those resources and get a little bit better each day. So as we dive in, wherever you are at is perfectly fine. Let's just practice and get better each day. So here's our agenda. So you kind of have the roadmap for the next 40 to 50 minutes. First, we're going to talk about the first strategy to avoid, the second and the third, right? 3 pricing strategies to avoid. So that's a great place to start, right? Then we're going to talk about the strategy that I believe is the strategy you should use. And then finally, I'm going to wrap that up with 5 key core elements that I believe you should really work on in your business to get where you want to be. So if you guys are ready, I'm going to go ahead and dive right in here. So the first strategy that we want to avoid is this going out and asking, hey, what does everyone sell your mugs for? Or maybe a longer explanation of, I have a question. I have a pretty large order. I'm asking because I'm terrible at pricing. I want to make sure that I don't overprice or underprice. What would you charge? What would you charge? Right. And I totally get this. And I've totally done this. And I totally look towards this. This is a market research tool. Totally understandable. But what happens, and the reason why this is a strategy to avoid, is we typically then get ourselves to a point where we say, okay, well, if they're charging $9 for this mug, I will charge $9 for this mug. Or, is this price good? And somebody says, oh yeah, that sounds like a great price. And then you just go ahead and make that pricing decision. So with that being said, then you're going to put yourself in a place where, is that actually the price you should be charging? Your business is different. Your numbers are different. Your customers are different. Their needs are different. Your needs are different. So what somebody else would charge for a mug and what you should charge for a mug are really 2 separate things. So if this is your pricing strategy, just asking others, what's the suggested list price? What do you charge? What I go search on Etsy and see what they're charging, and that's what I charge. All of that stuff is fine and dandy as a way to give ourselves some understanding, but it really is not a good pricing strategy. So that's the first one we want to avoid, is we want to avoid pricing based solely off of suggestions. All right. Again, I'm going to get to talking about what you should do instead. But let's start here because I want to just kind of work through this. I hope that I can kind of prove to you why these things don't necessarily work. All right. The second strategy to avoid is this one here, right? If you ever been the person or seen the person that I've got the lowest price guarantee, I'm going to let's see here, price match guarantee, lowest price match, whatever the competitor up the street is charging, I'm going to go a nickel cheaper, right? Best price promise. That one even is got a little bit of a GIF to it, so it stands out. All of these beautiful images here that, unfortunately, I found that way too many businesses have this as their pricing strategy. They say things like, I'm going to go look at what the competitor up the street is doing, and I'm going to make my price 5 cents lower. Well, guess what happens? Your competitor then looks at your price, and then they do the same thing, and they lower it by 5 cents. And then you go back and go, oh, I better go down 5 more cents. And then they go 5 cents, and then you go 5 cents, and then they go 5 cents. See, we could go on and on, right? You see where this is going. But here's the thing. Not only will that keep you from making a profit, it makes price the lowest common denominator for both you and your competitors, and therefore your customers' decision-making process. It makes you a commodity. And as a small business, the commodity trade just doesn't work unless you have unlimited capital. So if you have unlimited capital, please reach out to me. I've got several projects I'd love for you to take a look at and invest in, right? But I don't know too many people. In fact, I personally don't know anybody that has unlimited capital. So in the decorating world, if you're trying to be the cheapest, it's just way too challenging. We're taking a base product and trying to make it worth more to the customers, therefore increasing their perceived value by embellishing that product. The only way to actually be cheaper when it comes to cost is to be extremely efficient in your production, have no spoilage, get everything done quickly and faster than everybody else. And you also need to have really deep pockets so you can buy everything at the cheapest price possible through bulk purchasing. When you buy a commodity, bulk pricing is what you're looking for. A blank product is a commodity. A printer ink is a commodity. Now there are some things that are better than others, and you've got the folks here at Conde to guide you through that. But at the end of the day, having an embellished product and then trying to make it the cheapest is a really tough thing. Now, if one of your core values is being thrifty, then you can certainly position yourself as the value option. But there's always going to be somebody willing to do it for less than you. Unfortunately, for those that are willing to do it less than you, they probably don't have a pricing strategy beyond this either. And they're just starting their march to going out of business. So the second pricing strategy to avoid is being that low cost leader. We don't want to do that. Certainly we want to be competitive, but being the low cost leader, price guarantees, things like that, I've never seen those work long-term in our industry. All right. Now, the third pricing strategy to avoid. You guys might recognize this post here. This was somebody that was asking for pricing suggestions. My co-founder, Todd Downing, said, what do your numbers tell you? Do you know how long the job will take? Right. And then the next reply was, your total cost times 3 equals what you charge the customer. I saw that. And obviously I've blurred out people to save the innocent here. I saw that and I was a little bit concerned. In fact, a lot bit concerned, because if you actually find that post, you'll see that there are lots of other suggestions under there that are also very similar to that. That, again, I get it. It's well-meaning. They want to help out, but this is just way too simplified. Your total cost times 3 equals what you charge your customer. Well, first off, let's define total cost. What does that mean? There's quite a few variables in that. Is that the cost of the blank, or is that the cost of the blank plus the ink and the paper? What about your time? What about spoilage? What about, right? Okay. So first and foremost, that part right there doesn't really work. And then times 3, what does that mean? Why times 3? Where did that magic number come from? Who made that the number that works for everybody, right? So lots wrong with that. In fact, I even want to zoom in on it so you get one more chance to see and go, no, please don't share this information. I get it. I get where it comes from you want to be helpful, but there's so many things that just don't jive with this. So let's not do this. And to kind of help give you a little more information here, let me go a little deeper on this and let me show you why the ×3 thing doesn't always work. I'm going to give you 2 scenarios and explain to you both sides of the coin here and see what you think. So again, if our strategy is this, we're using that ×3. I went back to the details in the post there. So they said the shirts cost $5.50. Their transfers cost $3. So that makes the total cost $8.50, right? I just made some assumptions that that's what that person meant as total cost. So 3x price of $8.50 equals $25.50 each for those shirts. Okay. I think that price lands somewhere reasonable. I'm not going to argue with that. So, and the post mentioned that there were 300 shirts. So that means that your total that you would charge the customer is $7,650. Sweet. That's a really nice order. Great. Let's do it. In fact, that's such a great order that I'm expecting a $5,100 in profit. Again, if I say my total cost is $8.50, I'm charging $25.50. World is grand. Everybody's happy. Everybody makes money. So on and so forth, right? Well, let's look at a different scenario and see how this might play out a little bit differently using that same 3 times strategy. So the first scenario, again, we know that we're pressing in 3 locations from the post. We obviously need to also inspect and package that. And this particular shop, it takes them 10 minutes per shirt to do this. Now, this particular shop has done the work to know their costs, and it costs them $100 an hour to have their doors open. They've also planned for a 5% spoilage rate for any mess ups, and they've also factored in inbound freight and packaging. All right. So theirs looks a little bit different. They've got that total cost shirts and transfer at $8.50, but then they've got their labor, which is going to be $16.67, that 5% spoilage, the inbound freight and packaging costs. So their actual cost is $26.20, but they just 3 times $8.50 and charge their customers $25.50. So that means on that particular job, at the end of the day in the books, they're going to have lost $210. Ouch. Lost $210. Let that sink in for a second. All right. Well, let's look at another scenario then. So maybe things are a little bit different for that particular person who's thought 3X was the right formula. So again, pressing in 3 locations, expecting in packaging. And this particular shop, it takes 5 minutes per shirt because they have a really good workflow plan and they're super efficient. They've got their costs down, so they know it costs them $75 per hour to have their doors open. Like the previous shop, they plan for 5% spoilage rate. And again, factoring in inbound freight and packaging. So now let's look at this. $8.50. Shirts and transfers, that was the given. Pressing labor is $7.50 now. Spoilage $43, inbound freight and packaging 60 cents. So their actual cost to produce is $17.03. And then they sent a quote to their customers for $25.50 each because they just used that 3X formula. And for whatever reason, they didn't talk to the customer. Again, just coming up with a potential scenario here, the market or their customer's budget dictated that the shirts actually should have been sold for $21. Is that actually the right price or not? Well, that's what the customer is willing to pay for it, $21. So they didn't win that job, and therefore they left $1,191 in profit on the table, because if they would have sold the shirts for $21 each, that would have been their profit on that 300 shirt order. All right. So again, I'm just playing with some scenarios to show you why the complexity of pricing doesn't really equal this times 3, there's way too many variables to deal with here. So the third strategy to avoid is times 3 or other formulas that are unconnected from your numbers. All right, so now we've got those 3 pricing strategies to avoid. But you're not here to just learn what not to do. Hopefully, you're here to learn what to do and to grow and build your business. So let's start talking about what you should do instead. What you should do is what I call the market value strategy. The market value strategy is one strategy that always comes out on top for me. And so I guess at this point, you're probably asking yourself, well, what the heck is that, Aaron? All right. Well, here you go. This is as simple as I could make it. Market value strategy is something that means your strategy should be solely based on your market value. It is the value your ideal customers are happy to exchange, and it is the value your bottom line is happy to receive to make you grow. Your market value is the value you bring to the market, period. Buyer is happy, seller is happy. Your ideal customer and your business are unique to you only. The only reason to look at how much someone else is charging is to understand that market potential. If you feel like, excuse me, if you feel like you need more than what your perceived market potential is, then you need to determine how to add more value or to find a different target audience. Notice how so far on this entire slide, I've not used the word price or cost, I don't believe. I was trying not to. Value, cost, and price, while they might seem similar, they are actually quite different. What you charge is based on the value you are able to create for your customer and how much they are willing to exchange for the perceived value. This is the reason why you can go to Walmart and get a plain white t-shirt for $5. And you can also go online to a place called The Row via Net-a-Porter and look it up. It's really there. In fact, I'll even have a link to it. And they sell a very similar shirt for $280. $280 versus $5. Now, the cost to produce both of those are more than likely similar, but the perceived value is the difference. It's that experience, the status, the indirect value of owning one shirt over another. Now, I know this all sounds too good to be true, right? I can just sell these things for whatever I want and get it, right? No, unfortunately, it's not that easy, but it is kind of that simple. And this is where the work comes in. You have to have a clear understanding of your costs and your overhead. You have to have a plan for paying yourself. You have to create a perceived value by having your unique value proposition, and then create that business through daily actions and growth. When you get really clear on what value you bring to your ideal customer, things like how do you solve their problems? How do you support what is important to them? That is market value. That is your market value strategy, focusing solely on the value you bring, the problems you solve, and the support of what is important to them. All right. Now, as I mentioned at the very beginning, price is an art form. So any advice that someone can give you in, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, or maybe it's a reply to a Facebook post, I would be a little bit leery about running with that as that foundation of one of my core business functions. Pricing your products is a core business function. It's something that you have to develop. It's a skill that you have to work on and get better at. All right. So I want to give you this strategy. I want to give you at least a foundation, something to work towards, but I'm in no way, shape, or form saying, just do what I say and this will work out for you. You have to create this for yourself. You have to create your market value strategy for yourself. Now, if you were watching closely when I was walking through avoiding the ×3 strategy, you'll have actually already seen kind of my pricing strategy. It is that market value approach, but So you're not just going, oh, great. So Aaron just told me what not to do and then said, you got to figure it out on your own. I do want to bullet point it for you because there is some strategy and some foundation here that you should be able to take away from a 10-minute, 15-minute conversation here. And then you can start to build on that. Then you can start to build your own market value strategy. So I'm gonna share that bullet point. Then I'm also going to share the 5 core foundations that you'll need on top of that. That way you have your business getting to a place that it'll fill in the rest of that picture for you. And then I'll mention this again in a second, but after that, there were some great questions, some direct questions in the Whova app. And I'm going to answer any questions you guys have that I can get to here inside of this, or I'm going to give you an opportunity to reach out to me. So your questions will be answered. Let's build this together. Let's do that. So let me go through this real quickly, and I'll try to go into some detail. But again, this is just the foundation. This is what you're going to build from. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to identify and calculate what we call your shop rate. How much does it cost to just be in business each day? This is your overhead. This is your indirect expenses, your rent, or even if you're working from your home, your business needs to partake in those expenses. Otherwise, again, you've got a hobby. So with that being said, that's the first thing. Identify and calculate your shop rate. Now, as I was just starting to allude to there, this should also include paying yourself and planning for future growth. We need to pay ourselves so we can cover our personal expenses. Plus, if you're in business and part of your goal of your business, your idea of success is to grow, well, you need to have capital to be able to grow. You need to buy the next big machine. You need to talk to Mickey here at Condi and look at their wide format equipment, those types of things. You need to plan for that future growth. All right. So the next step here is I want to identify and calculate all of my direct costs. And these are the actual costs associated with each job. So with sublimation, paper and ink, right? Okay, that's a good start. But how about things like the inbound freight? How about things like my learning process when I was learning how to make mugs? How about the fact that, every once in a while I have a product that doesn't work out so well? There's other actual costs that are associated with each job, and I really need to get my arms around those as my next part of my strategy, my pricing strategy. From there, I need to calculate total time to create each job. I want to look at my production. I want to look at creating multiple items at the same time. And I want to look at that like a race car team does a pit stop. I want to look for efficiencies, but I also want to make sure that I'm getting the job done right the first time. So I want to calculate how much time does it take me to make these things. Next, from all that information that's in those first 3 bullet points, I'm going to take all that data, I'm going to smush it together, and I'm going to determine my final full cost to produce plus my desired profit margin requirements. I'm going to try to determine what kind of profit margins I require. And every business is going to be a little bit different. Some businesses are perfectly fine at 5-10%. Most decorating businesses I know are looking for more like 30 to 40, 50, or 60%. And some businesses I know make 80% profit margins all day, every day, and their customers love them. So you have to determine your desired profit margin requirement. That doesn't mean you're going to get that on every job, but at least I want to have a number that's a good starting point for me. All right. After that, I want to determine who my ideal customer is and what they value. We talked about that. What value do you provide to your customers? Again, what problem do you solve? So that's the next part of my strategy. I want to determine what they value. And before I start thinking about, okay, my discounts and I need to be lower than this guy or that guy, do my customers actually care about that? Or do my customers care about the quality? Do my customers care about the community? Do my customers care about the values I stand for? There's a lot more to a pricing strategy than just the dollars and cents. All right. Next, this is where I kind of basically just want to peek around a little bit. I want to ask that question and get that information about what do you charge for a mug, or go to Etsy and find out what others are selling it for. I'm not making any of my pricing decisions based on this information. I'm just giving myself a range to look at. And once I kind of have that market potential, I want to look at that versus what my required selling price is. Now, your required selling price, we just got in the bullet point above. That's basically your total full cost to produce. I'm sorry, the bullet point 2 up. You got that from determining the final full cost to produce plus your profit, right? So that's your required selling price. And once I have that, if the market potential is higher than the required selling price, then I set a price that's either higher than my required selling price or somewhere in that market potential range. And I start selling the product. Sell, 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 share it with everybody I know. Did I mention sell, 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 right? If it's there, go for it. Get it out there and start working on it. If the market potential is lower than my RSP, my required selling price, I need to either determine how to create more value or find new markets that the market potential would equal that, right? So I need to believe in myself. I need to hold my ground. All sorts of things like that will come up if I get to that point. But as you can see, neither of my pricing decisions, either selling or creating more value or finding new markets, had anything to do with the actual costs. They had everything to do with, am I able to sell this product? Does this meet my required selling price? All right. So that is the strategy we want to use. Market value based on your numbers. Now, let me share the other 5 core foundation elements that I intentionally left. Excuse me. So I want to share the other 5 foundational elements. And based on where we're at time-wise right now, I've got plenty of time left, and that's very intentional, as I also want to answer your specific nuts and bolts questions. I believe, all of the questions from the Whova app, and I will try to get them all answered. And I don't want to just leave you with this kind of high-level overview. I want to give you real nuts and bolts information you can use. Remember, my mission, provide resources. So let me get you these 5 core foundation pieces. They're needed for a successful business and a pricing strategy that works. We already talked about this a little bit, but knowing your numbers. You will never know what to price your products at if you don't know your numbers. This is your overhead, paying yourself, planning for the future. Those are the numbers you have to know. Again, inside of our success group, we call that your shop rate. How much does it cost you to be in business every day? The second thing is pricing for profit. We need to understand how to get as close to possible to what our real actual costs are. And again, not just the blank and decorating, but the freight in, the spoilage, the time to produce, the inspection, the packaging, the freight out, all of that stuff. We have to get our arms around all of that so we can price our products for profit. So that's the second core foundational piece, or as we call them, the 5 keys. The third piece is workflow and organization. If your idea for your business is to grow, then how are you going to manage that growth? You need to have documented workflow and processes, as well as a way to organize and get quality work done on time. So that's the third principle or core foundation. Fourth is delivery and follow-up. This is your customer service plan. How do you wow your customers? How do you create word of mouth sales and then get them coming back for more? Selling to your existing customers is way more profitable than always grinding for new customers. So have a good delivery and follow-up plan. And then fifth core foundation here is your marketing foundation. You've heard me say throughout this presentation so far a lot about our ideal customer. So instead of just talking about customers, customers could mean anybody. I want you to identify who your ideal customer is. That is your foundation. I want you to look at who your ideal customers are, What are the unique value propositions that they value? And how can you best go to market? And these marketing foundations are actually necessary before you start posting on Facebook and doing all of this other so-called marketing. Without that foundation, your other marketing is not going to be as valuable and not going to get you where you want to go. So with those 5 core foundations, that's going to put you on the rocket ship to success. Now, there's more to do inside of your business, and we talk all about that inside of our success group, but this is what you need. This fills in the rest of that picture after you get through those bullet points that I had on the previous slide. All right. So as I said, I wanted to get into the nuts and bolts. I wanted to get to the questions. So here's the questions that I have so far. If there's other ones, I'll try to take a look. We'll stay as long as we can here and get them answered. Plus, I will give you my email address so you can reach out to me at any time. All right. So the first question is, what is the best way to price items so that you can still make a decent profit when there is local competition? My reply on the app was, it starts with knowing your numbers and actual costs. So your local competition price should have no bearing on your price. We just talked about that. It, as a reference, it's fine. And it gives you an idea of the potential market value. But if it directs your pricing decision, like we just talked about, it's going to be a losing proposition. It's like asking people on Facebook, what would you charge for this? Again, a great reference point, but has nothing to do with your business. Your price should be based on your business and the value you create for your ideal customer. So if you know your numbers and your actual costs, you know what you need to get, and then you know how you can create value from there. All right. So hopefully that answers that question. The second question. Sometimes I have people ask me to give a discount if they purchase several items. I don't budge on price because I'm a small business owner and I don't mass produce. What are my thoughts? My reply in the app was, it's about educating your customer. What is the value you bring to the table and that they can connect with? All right. So people ask for discounts because they're conditioned for that. We're all conditioned to try to get the best price. But the main issue is not the having to budge on your price, but a lack of education of your customers. They don't realize that there's none of what I call economy to scale in what we do. Your costs don't really go down all that much with sublimation by doing more at one time. Your job is to educate your ideal customer and to help them see the perceived value in working with you. Personalization, fast turnaround, full color, etc. But it's all about educating. It's not just because you're a small business. That's great, and that'll maybe start the conversation. But they need to get what's in it for them, right? Not what's in it for you, what's in it for them. So what's the value you bring to the table that they can connect with? All right. So next question. In pricing an item, do you take into account your time? My reply on the app is, I'd go so far as to say you have to take your time into account if you want to have a business and not a hobby. So with this one, yes, your time is the most important, and that's why people come to you. As I said on the app, it's what separates a business from a hobby. The time to create is probably the largest expense that happens inside of a sublimation business. So if you're not taking into account your time, you're not making money. And if you're not making money, then you have a hobby. Great. Hobbies are awesome. I love a good hobby, but somehow you got to pay for that hobby. And if you'd like to pay for that hobby by actually having a business, then yes, you need to account for your time. So hopefully that answers that question. The fourth question here, do you price products differently at events? I want to have the customers come back to my website for future orders. And my reply in the app was, I like to keep it simple and price the same and then give a discount for first-time orders at your site. Now, as you'll kind of see as I answer these questions, my theme is to keep my pricing strategy the same. I always base pricing off my numbers, my time, and paying myself. Then working that art form that is pricing is the next phase. I would make the pricing the same from the event to the website. and then work those new customers you get from the event and offer them a be back, a discount to come and order more from your website. Right? You're by selling to the same customer over again, it's more profitable because they understand how you do business and it's easier to produce. So keep it simple, focus on what's in it for the customer, focus on your value, and you should have it right there. All right, next question. Do you have a pricing formula? And as you guys just saw, yes, I do. But it's different than just saying ×3, which again, you guys also saw that. There is definitely some groundwork to do first. And we've actually developed a full spreadsheet and program that allows you to plug in your blank costs and ink and paper and then determine your profit margin that you'll need. And there is work to do in advance. There's no question about it. But once you've done that work in advance, excuse me, you can price anything quickly and easily. And the best part of the system is it's designed that even if you only break, quote unquote, break even, you are still in the black as you're paying yourself, right? We've talked about that already, paying yourself. So that's kind of my system, my formula. You saw the bullet points there. Hopefully that gives you some insight into that. All right. What is the best strategy when dealing with markets like realtors baskets that they give to new homeowners and buying in bulk so everybody feels like they won? Great question. Again, like you're going to see in a theme here, I don't really change my strategy regardless of the opportunity. It does boil down to knowing your numbers. And that's what I said inside of the app. And so like the events and the discounts, when you know your numbers, all these questions really kind of go away because it's not actually about pricing. It's about making everybody feel like it's a win-win because it actually is a win-win. You create the perceived value. That's a win for them because they feel like they're getting the value in exchange for what they're paying you. And you're getting the value of the profit that you need to have a sustainable business and to be there to service them. So sometimes we get ourselves a little too caught up in the pricing. If you change your mindset and make it more about getting yourself caught up in the value you provide, I think you're going to have a lot better success, especially with things like bulk and discounts and all that kind of fun stuff. All right, the next one, fundraising. If an organization wants a large percentage, like a 50-50 split, should you mark up above your normal retail prices? And there's a little follow-up and I'll get to that. But in the app, I said, I would say, yes, raise your prices. You have to make what your business needs to make, or you say no to the job, the project, the fundraising opportunity. So I personally would have the fundraising organization set the price they need to make their goals. Your prices are what they are to them, and then they can get the markup they need. You support them with the tools, the resources, and ways to sell or other similar resources to that. And that's the value that you're bringing. So whatever margin they need to make, if you're giving them 50-50 split and they don't sell anything, a 50% split of zero is still zero. But if you're only giving them a 30% split, but they sell a whole lot more because of the value that they're creating and showing to their potential people that want to raise funds for them, so I wouldn't, again, I don't want to get too caught up into the splits and the numbers and the 50-50. I want to focus on the value. I want you to show them what services you can do for them. So when you focus on the price, we deal with the price. That's the gist of it. When we focus on our value, we deal with the value. Now, the follow-up question that was there was about the price discrepancies. And I kind of left it off of here because the way I felt like I answered that, the price discrepancy thing goes away. I would still go back to what your price is your price. If they want to create discrepancies by having a different price before and after, I would say that's theirs to deal with. That's their issue to deal with. You basically are going to say between what you sold it for and what you are charging the fundraising group, that's what they're going to get. So don't get yourself too bogged down inside of that. All right, the next one here, excuse me. How do you store the pricing for each substrate so if someone comes up and asks you the cost, you don't have to figure it out? My answer in the app was spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are the number one business tool. I personally use Google Sheets, Excel, other things like that out there. But even if you're not familiar with spreadsheets, a lot of people get into this business because they're creatives, and creatives and spreadsheets don't always mix. But the more familiar you can get with spreadsheets, the better business owner you're going to be. Using a spreadsheet is a huge part of being a business owner and running your business, regardless of the size of your business. So you have to know your numbers. Our success group, we actually have a system based around that spreadsheet, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. So spreadsheet. All right. All right. Let's get some more questions here. At what point do you give a bulk discount? When the customer orders 10, 50, 100 of the same item? And my reply in the app was, when your numbers tell you there is some economy to scale, do your costs go down at those numbers? Meaning, do your costs go down at 10, 50, 100 of the same item? So like the events and discounts and fundraising that we kind of already talked about here, don't set your pricing strategy expecting to discount or give away profit. What do your numbers tell you? And like I answered on the app, do your costs go down at those numbers? I would never set as my pricing strategy in a decorating business to say that at 10, the price goes down 5%. Each product is going to tell a little bit different story when it comes to the numbers. So for example, mugs are a great example of this. If I were to say up at 10, it's 5% less, I don't know if that works so great for mugs. Mugs come in a case of 36, and your base cost is less expensive when you buy in a case of 36. It's the reality of the shipping and the way that they're packed, and most mugs come in a case of 36. So dealing with 36 mugs is a whole lot easier than dealing with 10 or 20 from a packaging standpoint, and even really a production standpoint. But if you're giving a discount at 10, you're just giving away profit for no apparent reason. You have to first ask yourself the question, why do people need a discount? Is it because they have no other reference point for their exchange of value than to get a better price? Then yes, I guess you do want to set those limits, but I certainly wouldn't make that my pricing strategy. Discounts are just them taking away my value. My value is the profit. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to set those things as my starting point. All right. The next one was, I live in a low income rural area, so I struggle to sell locally. I'd love to be able to attract more local interest though. Now, my reply in the app was, I believe this might be a limiting belief. People in your town spend more money on something else all the time. Have you ever seen anybody wearing Nike sneakers in your town? So if you believe you are worth the price and then you work to create value for your local community, I think you will be able to attract more local interest. So like the Walmart and the $280 white shirt example, there is always somebody willing to pay what you want to make if you can find them and help them see the value. As I said, there are people buying more expensive items than the price of what you create in your town all the time. They just believe there's more value to again, pair of sneakers. Maybe it's a handbag. Even a night out at the movies can cost more than a lot of the sublimation products that we're offering. So if you show that you believe in what you're doing, and then you tell a story of the value you create, the right local buyers will find you. All right. So believe in yourself and you got it. Third one here on this page. How do you strategize for giving high volume discounts? And then my reply in the app is, it all starts with knowing your numbers and reasons for giving high value discounts. I kind of feel like I'm beating a dead horse here or beating the drum too much, whatever the saying might be. But at the end of the day, strategizing for giving high volume discounts boil down to the fact that the more I discount, the tighter my profit margin is going to be. And therefore, the more confident I need to be that I have all of my costs and overhead accounted for. But as I've talked about on the other discount questions, First, determine if this is an education thing. High volume discounts are not a requirement of being in business, right? So if you're choosing to start off with offering high value discounts, you're putting yourself in that position. Wait until somebody asks you that, and then figure out if you need to go and make that happen for that particular job. By leaving a high value discount off, it allows you to then give that customer that maybe you want to give a high value discount, that high value discount, and they're going to feel special about it because that's special for them. That's not just something everybody can get. So there's that. Now, on the flip side, I know it is possible to give high volume discounts. I know it's possible because my wife sells wholesale sublimation services at montco.biz. Now, it takes buying in bulk. It takes having a tight workflow with minimal spoilage, and it takes charging for any frills or services or value beyond taking the order and producing it. You have to ask yourself how much of your value, right? We talked about that just a moment ago. Your value is your profit. Are you willing to exchange for the lure of that large order? So that's my strategy there is, first, I want to understand, is it even necessary? And how much of my profit am I willing to give up for that high volume order? All right, next question here. How do I price my items when there's so much competition? And we talked about this one in the last slide a little bit. But every time I see somebody worried about their competition, I actually recall my time when I was working for a company that was a competitor of Condé. Before I got there, there was so much time spent on what Condé was doing and how much their prices were. You know, I had been down that road before I got there, so I'd learned it's more about seeing what value we could provide and then pricing our products from there. If the final decision is based on the price, then I was doing something wrong in our services or our value propositions. So I've been there, but just fight the urge to worry about the competition and believe in yourself and believe in the prices you're going to offer. And if you're telling that story, you're talking about the value you create, people will find you. You just have to keep telling that story. All right. All right. And then if there are any other questions, if you want to reach out to me, you can do so by emailing success@oursuccessgroup.com. And I'm happy to answer any other questions. I'm happy to share with you anything that I've got and answer your specific questions. So I really appreciate all of your time. And speaking of that, lastly, excuse me, as a thank you for the time, I do have a few things I'd like to give you. First, as I promised in some of the comments on the Whova app, that I will give you a full copy of all these slides and all of the notes that go along with them. So you've got it all there, and you can kind of reference back to it as needed, and hopefully that'll be helpful for you. Secondly, you will get a copy of my top 10 sublimation tips and tricks. So I've actually been in sublimation for many years and have been able to work and have been able to work with a company like Condé and also with decorators and even helping build a large wholesale business in the on-demand printing sublimation space. So I've picked up a few things along the way, and I have a white paper that I'm happy to give to you at no charge. And then the third thing, so I want to give you four things here. Three things here first. The third thing is a complete reference and resource page. It's got everything from some business templates, niche markets and some other things like that. It's also got a really good suggested reading list. It's got some other free resources and tools that I recommend, including some affiliate links of products that I use. So I don't share affiliates for anything that I don't use. All right, so that's the third thing. And then last but not least, at least to me, is I'm going to also share some information with you about a training program that we've designed to help you determine your numbers, give you more details on setting your pricing, building a good workflow and process, designing your customer service strategies, and building that marketing foundation around your ideal customer. So if you'll just enter your name in there at the web link below, oursuccessgroup.com/Condi. If you'll go ahead and put your name and email address in there, we will follow up with an email that has those 4 things in it. And that is just a free gift to you for your time and a way for us to say thank you to the folks at Condi for having us. So with that being said, I do want to thank you guys again for being here. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you. Hopefully that's really helpful. And last but not least, I really want you guys to focus on the value that you create, not the price that you sell at. All right. You have a ton of value. I believe in you. You can do it. And so just get out there and do it. Have a great day.